It's a kind of a strange thing to stand in the middle of something, because they tend to be between things. My great-grandma Brown used to yell at me for it. She was Irish through and through. I don't know if you know about these things from Ireland, but if you stand in the middle of something, you're asking for it from the Fae. So if I would stand in a doorway and lean against the door frame, she would yell at me, "Get out of there!" Because you're in between places. You're not in one room or another, you're in between. And we always find ourselves in kind of in between places. Not always at the start, when things are full of energy, and not always at the end when there's closure and understanding. Just kind of there in the middle, uncertain, in between. The old is mostly behind, the new just can't be seen. And the Israelites knew that feeling well. Standing in the middle of the Jordan riverbed with walls of water standing on either side of them. And there they were, you know, it would shape how they remembered what was and how they understood what might yet be. And I think that there are seasons in life and in the life of the church that feel very much like that. The river is stopped, walls of water to the right and to the left, dry ground beneath their feet, the promised land ahead, but they're not there yet. They were in the middle. Mud on their shoes, air heavy with uncertainty. Sometimes life is like that. Times when we're not moving fast, if at all. Times when we're not sure what's next. Times when it feels like we're standing still, just waiting on God. And it's not failure. It's not wrong. It's just life sometimes. And it's okay. God gives this interesting command to Joshua to pass on to the tribes to gather stones from the middle of the river. Not from the banks on either side, not from the land where they had been, and not from the land where they were headed. Rocks from the middle of the river, right there, the in-between. And maybe that's something to remember. That even in this world, in our world, in this little place of our own here, that when things feel paused or uncertain or small, but there are still stones to notice and to gather. Memories to hold. Blessings to name. Things worth carrying in our hearts. Even if the future is completely unknown, even if no one is asking us to go rushing ahead, there are things that are still important in the middle. In our modern days, when everything seems to be so readily at hand, you can get information with a tap of a button, or you can have whatever you want to purchase on the internet, have it delivered to you in an amount of time that people just 100 years ago would have been startled by. And it's been passed on, that kind of attitude has been passed on into the church, where we tend to think that things, if they're going to get better, they have to get better now. Or if anything's going to change, or if we're going to find out where we're going or what's happening, that it has to come now, that vision must be done now. And there's this weird little story in the Gospel of Mark. You might be familiar with it. Where Jesus heals a blind man. And he asks the guy if he can see at first. And the guy says, well, I see people moving around like trees. So it's not really clear yet. It takes one more application of the healing, one more touch, before the guy's vision becomes clear. And you have to wonder what happens in those moments, right? Can you imagine someone who's been blind their whole life, suddenly they see? You know, we can also ask questions like, how does he know what trees look like? People walking around, what do you know the people walking around like trees looks like? These are weird questions that pop into my head. I'm sorry. But sometimes this is the way it is for us as well. We try to look at the future or even the present, and everything looks a little blurry. Things don't really seem as certain as they once were. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's part of how God moves with us in peace and in layers, in ways that only become clear over time. And then this story with Joshua, as the people are crossing the river, God told the Israelites, when your children ask, you will tell them about this day. About standing here in the middle. There's something about remembering, not just the high points in life, but the quiet middles, the in-betweens, the seasons when we stand still and wait. Maybe that's part of what church, maybe that's part of what church is best at. I knew I'd be speaking English, sorry about that. A place where stories are remembered. A place where it's okay to say we don't know what's ahead, but we've seen enough to trust the one who holds it. So here we are. Still standing in the river. Not stuck, not lost, but simply here. Trusting that even this place matters. That there are stones to gather, memories to keep, stories to tell. And that God meets us. Not just in the rushing forward and of the bright moments, but right here in the middle with us. As we stack river stones and raise our Ebenezer. Amen.